Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Noor Azni Binti Mahadi, matric number S51883. My supervisor is Mr. Muhammad Rizal bin Ismail. Today I want to present my final project and the title is Challenges of Airlines to Recovery During Coronavirus Pandemic. For introduction, as the newest global risk, the 2019 coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic has interrupted business operation in all industries. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the airline industry was one of the industries most affected, experiencing the greatest crisis in its history. COVID-19 could be the biggest challenge that the global aviation sector has ever faced. The influence can be felt in the world ecosystem such as airline and others. Aviation will recover, but it will take unparalleled cooperation, greater data sharing and more ecosystem-wide digitalization to make the industry more sensitive, agile and more financially viable than ever before to emerge from the pandemic. It is still difficult to predict how the recovery of this sector will grow as there are doubts about the continued effect of COVID-19. My objective is to identify the other factors that contribute to the challenges of recovery for airlines. Next, literature review. First and foremost, COVID-19 flight plan. The COVID-19 crisis has struck the airline industry particularly hard, maybe even harder than the events of 9/11 and the global financial crisis of 2008 combined. Many airlines have grounded all, or almost all, of the plan in their fleet with unparalleled consequence. Most business, network and operation teams are still struggling to repatriate passengers and determine the flight to maintain. Flight plans will allow airlines to emerge stronger from the crisis of the coronavirus. The first main criteria is challenges in forecasting demand during and after COVID-19. There are three sub-criteria. First one is cost factor, second is technology factor, and lastly competitors factor. The second main criteria is market structure. Under market structure have three sub-criteria, that is liquidity and balance sheet, government support and possible consolidation. The third main criteria is cash flow. There are three sub-criteria. Firstly, financial pressure. Secondly, operating loss. And lastly, marginal cost. Then, methodology. This section outlines the research, design and approach used to achieve the study's goal and objective. Analytical hierarchy process AHP was employed in this paper. Figure 1 shows research methodology that contains 8 steps. Firstly, as illustrated in Figure 1, the assessment process begins by identifying the various elements that contribute to the challenges of airline recovery. Secondly, a systematic hierarchical model is built after all of the factors have been found, reviewed and filtered. Figure 2 shows generic model development. Thirdly, the weight assignment for each element will be calculated using the analytic hierarchy process AHP approach. A set of AHP questionnaire was created at this point and provided to the expert in order to determine the weight value for each criterion and sub-criterion. These selected experts were required to make comparison on an individual criterion with the rest, one by one at the same level of a decision hierarchy. These experts were expected to compare themselves to the rest of the group on a single criterion, one by one at the same level of the decision hierarchy. This table shows the background details of the expert. Following that, these experts were required to choose the most significant component in order to meet the goal of each section using the ratio scale of measurement as shown in Table 3. For example, between cost factor and technology factor, which factor is more influence challenges of airline to recovery during coronavirus pandemic? Table 3 shows the ratio scale for pairwise comparisons. Fourthly, consistency ratio or CR will be calculated in order to ensure the judgment made by the expert are consistent. The equation of the CR is expressed in equation 3 until 5 as follows. CR should be less than or equal to 0.1. However, if the CR value is greater than 0.1, the expert must revise the logically incongruent pairwise comparison. Finally, the global weight for each factor will be calculated in order to obtain a single result of the most influential factor that Malaysian airline face. In order to discover the most influential component, the local weight of each sub-factor is multiplied by the weight of its major factor. Next, result and discussion. On the basis of this research, the main issue faced by airline in Malaysia is determined. To ensure challenges of recovery of the industry, three main issues were investigated, which is forecast demand, market structure, and cash flow. Equation 1 until 11 is employed to compute the weight of each factor and sub-factor of this research. This table shows the main indicators, weight of main indicator, sub-indicators, local of weight sub-indicator, and global weight. Despite the highest value on government support was ranked as the most important sub-factor according to global weightage. This table shows the sub-factors, global weight, and ranking for each sub-factors. The emphasis that respondents place on government support since airlines are the lifeblood of the industry according to respondents. The Malaysian government has gone some way to aiding the aviation industry recovery from the coronavirus outbreak, but more can be done, especially because the recovery is difficult to forecast. The finding shows operating loss as the second most important sub-factor. The airline has been facing the issue of operating loss since the emergence of the COVID-19 outbreak, causing the company to face many losses. The airline have been operating at a loss for some time and was estimated to require approximately 5 billion in order to stay in business until 2025. The subsequent sub-factor according to weightage is liquidity and balance sheet. That factors are related to market structure factor. At this point in time, managing liquidity is critical, given the long list of expensive costs that an airline must pay, as well as the industry's capital-intensive nature. It is no surprise that airlines have high debt levels. Forecast demand show the least important among the three factors, where its highest sub-factor was at fourth rank with global weight 0.1219. It is evident that forecast demand have less impact in determining the challenges of recovery for airline based on the respondent view. For conclusion, this study identifies several factors that need to be faced by airlines in Malaysia in restoring the reputation of this industry as a result of being affected by the COVID-19 epidemic. The factors are forecast demand, market structure, and cash flow. 3 main criteria and 9 sub-criteria were ranked in the order of importance for the industry. This finding of this study is significant for the decision maker to identify factors to restore the state of the airline industry, which is heavily affected by COVID-19. Furthermore, it is important to revitalize this industry so that it can operate as before COVID-19. More in-depth research is required to investigate the causes that can contribute to the issues in this study. The information is necessitated to improve airline industry in Malaysia and can be served as guidance for future research in other sectors and regions. This research work has certain limitations. The quality of the finding would have been higher if the number of experts were more.